Hi there, so this tutorial video will take you through the basics of Excel as a reminder for spreadsheets for your upcoming end of year exam. Now I have here a set up little spreadsheet about a set of holidays. I've got a list of different destinations that these holidays are going to. I have a cost for each holiday destination per night, and I have the number of nights that each holiday is going to take. I then have a space for working out the total cost. I'm also going to work out the largest cost, the max, the lowest cost, the min, and the average cost. Now, first of all, I notice that my costs here are not displayed currently as currency. Remember, all values in a spreadsheet need to be formatted to what they represent. A single number, just like these, any individual number, could represent number of holidays, number of items in stock, a number of animals in the zoo, all of that kind of thing. But if it's specifically a time or a percentage or a price, we need to format the value of that number to show that type. So these numbers here need to be formatted to currency. Okay, and the way I would do that is by highlighting these numbers here, right-clicking on top of those numbers. Sorry, there we go. And I will go to Format Cells, and I would change the numbers category to currency. I can choose what type of currency, so I can choose euros or dollars or pounds, and the number of decimal places as well. So now we have our cost per night formatted as currency. Now, total cost. Let's have a look at writing a formula. Part of working in spreadsheets is the ability to read the table and understand what the table is talking about. In order to know what formula has to go in here, you have to understand what this is talking about. This is a holiday. This is how much it's going to cost per night on that holiday. This is the number of nights that the holiday is going to last. So the total cost is going to be 15 euros for 7 nights. Or 15 times 7. So read the table. Make sure you read it and make sure that you understand what the table is talking about in order to know what the formula is going to want. Every formula starts with an equals. In this case, we are going to be looking at this 15 and this 7. But I'm not going to type in the number 15 or the number 7. I'm going to use the cell reference that number is in. So the number 15 is in cell B2. So equals B2. There we go. Now that highlights this cell. B2 multiplied by C2. Now in maths, the multiplication symbol is the X, like this. Not in spreadsheets. X is a letter, okay? So because it's not the X, we must use the star symbol to represent a multiplication. Equals B2 multiplied by C2. Now, on the computer, I can simply click in the cell and it chooses the cell reference. In your exam, you will be writing this out on paper, so you need to be able to know that you can write out one of these formulas using the equals in the right place, finding the correct cell reference for the correct point, and the correct part of that cell reference to have a symbol to show what it is that we're doing. So if I press enter now, that value there is the result of this formula, okay? But in the exam, you're going to need to be able to write the formula or select the correct formula from a list. In a spreadsheet, once I've written one formula, if I wanted to simply use that same formula for all of these, I could pick up this little blue box in the corner and I could copy it down just like that. But each of these formulas is exactly the same, equals B3 times C3, number of nights times by cost per night. Now, let's have a look here at the minimum, the maximum, and the average. Max means the biggest. Maximum is the largest number, so looking for the largest value in here. Minimum, smallest, average, mean. Okay, so in this situation, I'm not just going to write out the cell references, I'm going to use a word in between the equals and the cell references to tell the computer what I am looking for. So down here for max, I'm going to start with equals, and then I'm going to type in max. Max looks for the largest number between a certain range. So now I have to select my range. In order to choose a range, I need to put the range in brackets. So I open brackets, I type in the first cell reference for my range. I'm going to type in a colon to show that it's going to be everything else in between that range, and then the last cell reference. So the first cell reference of my range is here, D2. So after my brackets, I'm going to write D2, colon, which is the 2 dots, and then the last cell in that range is D8. And then to close my brackets, this formula here will look for the largest number in this range, equals max, open brackets, the first cell in the range, colon, the last cell in the range, close brackets, returning the largest value from that range. For min, or the smallest value, it's exactly the same, but we're going to replace the word max with the word min. This is going to look for the smallest number. Every formula starts with an equals, in this case equals min, a range, so it has to include brackets, open that bracket, the first cell of the range is D2, colon, the last cell of the range is D8, close brackets. That colon symbol in the middle means and everything in between. This finds 105 as the lowest number in this selection. Now the average equals, unfortunately, it's not the 3-letter shortened version like max and min. We would have to type out the whole word for average. Again, a range, opening brackets, first cell in the range, D2, colon, last cell in the range, D8, close brackets. So here we have done formatting cells to currency, finding the correct cell reference, starting a formula with equals, creating a basic multiplication formula, a max looking for the largest number, a min looking for the smallest number, and an average looking for the mean. So let's go on to a different spreadsheet now. This spreadsheet here is a little bit more complicated. We already have the values here formatted to currency, these ones are in pounds, and it is a spreadsheet showing the values of a bookseller. So these are all of the titles that this particular bookshop has. This is the price of each book. Initial stock means how many books we have in the shop today. The number sold, so how many have been sold since the beginning. The remaining stock is empty, as is the value of sales and the total value of sales in October. So we'll start with remaining stock. If we have initial stock, which is how many books we began with, and the number sold, how many have gone, the remaining stock will be the difference between. So we're going to do another basic formula like our multiplication one here, but instead of a multiplication, it's going to be a minus. Every formula starts with an equals. In this case, equals the cell reference that we find the value 15 in, which is C2, minus the number 7, which is found in cell D2. The remaining stock after the sold is 8. Again, I can copy this down, but all of these replicate the same formula. C4 minus D4. C7 minus D7. Notice I haven't got brackets in here, and it's because it's not to do with a range. It's not using a word to give an instruction like average or max or min. It's just two cells and their relation to one another. And so there's no brackets needed, and I can just use the symbol. Now, the value of sales. So from this, I need to work out how much has been made. Each book that's been sold has been sold for $9.99, and I have sold 7 books of this title. So just like where I did the total cost of the holiday, or cost per night times number of nights, the total value of sales will be selling price multiplied by number sold. Every formula starts with an equals. We find the cell reference. The selling price here is in cell B2. We are going to multiply that by the number sold, which is found in D2. The star symbol for multiplication, D2. This gives me the value of these sales. I can then copy that down. And again, I find that the same cell value, the same formula has been used. B4 multiplied by D4. B7 multiplied by D7. B10 multiplied by D10. Now, for the total value of sales in October, I'm going to add all of these up. Now, I could do this by saying equals F2 plus F3 plus F4 plus F5 and so on. But this is a very long-winded way of going about doing things. It works, but it's not the most efficient way. The most efficient way is to use one of our word functions with a range. So we used max to find the highest, we used min to find the lowest, we used average to find the mean. So in order to find the total, the 3-letter word we're going to use is sum. We're looking for the sum of all of these. Equals sum, let's use a range, open brackets, F2, colon, meaning and everything else in between, and the last value, F10. So the sum of everything from F2 to F10, close brackets. This here gives me the total value.